Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the Pick Trail Show. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Kamigo. Thanks for joining us for another Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. Kevin, it's been probably the week that most Hog fans needed to have, at least when it comes to NCAA and March Madness, implications. But we'll get there. Let's start on the Wednesday game. A tough road loss against Auburn before coming home and beating Missouri yesterday. We'll start, like I said, on that Auburn game. What'd you really take out of that game? It was a game where Arkansas's front court just couldn't get going, but they were still in it every step of the way.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with this Arkansas team. After starting 0-5 with a couple of bad blowout road losses, Arkansas has gone 5-4 since, and it's been one of those situations in games against teams like Auburn and Alabama and even Texas A&M, two of those on the road. Arkansas's right there at the end. Chances to win all three of those games against teams, projected a couple of them on the 1 seed line and A&M on the 2 seed line. But Auburn is the creme de la creme out of the bunch. 14 quad one wins on the season, the number one ranked team, not only in the AP poll, but held that spot for so long in net. So to go on the road and be up by a point with 3 minutes to play at Auburn, and you mentioned it, Arkansas's front line was an offer. Arkansas is finding ways with already a depleted rotation. We know that. It might have gotten worse yesterday. But I think it says a lot. And Arkansas didn't lose any ground in the various bracketology bubble when Arkansas's on the bubble. Didn't really lose much ground after those back-to-back losses, Auburn and before that A&M on the road. And I don't think they gained a ton of ground with the win over Missouri in terms of at least Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Except now you're getting to the point with only 4 games to go. Yesterday it was 5 before you beat the Tigers at home. You're at a place now where you've still got to get more wins. And yesterday, while it might not have been technically a must win, it's about as close to must win as you can get. But again, the showing at Auburn, I think gives you a glimpse that this Arkansas team has gotten better, even though it's losing and still finding ways to hurt itself in games that might be winnable. Still, they're much better than they were in those first 5 league games. So they look maybe a little more worthy on the bubble than some of the other bubble teams that get blown out. Even when they pick up a win here and there, they get blown out a lot. Oklahoma's an example of that, and a team that's one spot ahead of Arkansas on the bubble in Lunardi's bracketology.
Yeah, and we saw, like you mentioned, that Oklahoma game. When Oklahoma came here, it's a team where Arkansas had the chance at the end of the game, and they weren't able to finish. And that's something Coach Cal said last night after the win is everybody knows around the league that we're getting better as a team. Now we have to finish. And last night really showed to be step one that they can finish and beat a ranked team. I believe it's an Arkansas basketball team's first ranked win since Duke of last year. So it's been quite some time since the Hogs took down anyone with really, notoriety or a little number in front of their name. But what impressed you the most about the win? You said a little bit already that, the backcourt got a little hurt, front court a little bit with Duthero leaving the game, and he did not return towards the end. But what impressed you about being able to handle a Missouri team that was shooting lights out in the first half?
Well, first of all, it's Arkansas's 3rd win over a ranked team this season. It's the first win over a ranked team at Bud Walton Arena since Duke of last year. And that's a little bit loaded. I mean, you lost at home to a ranked Ole Miss team. You lost at home to a ranked Florida team. You lost at home to a ranked Bama team, and you had that loss to OU. So, yeah, Arkansas finally gets off the snide at home. And this late in the year, you'll take a win over a ranked team at home versus the alternative. What impressed me, I thought Arkansas's backcourt was dominant comparatively to Missouri's vaunted backcourt, a deep backcourt, and one that's Mark Mitchell on the front line's probably the headliner, surrounded by a bunch of good guards. And I thought Arkansas's backcourt was actually better. And I thought Arkansas, when you look at the turnover game, when you look at points off turnovers, transition scoring, which also helped your points in the paint, Arkansas was dominant in all those areas. And this was the Arkansas team we thought would be their identity coming into league play after being really good in transition and getting those live ball turnovers. And it just hasn't been consistent in conference play. That was probably Arkansas's best showing in those categories in league play. It definitely was. And it couldn't come at a better time. I mean, again, a 15th ranked team. Let's not forget, Missouri's also ranked top 15 in net. And so that was a huge win at home. But I thought And the other thing I thought was key in this game, Arkansas shot 20 more free throws. And after getting destroyed in the 3-point shooting game in the first half, Arkansas got better defensively in the second half while their offense got even better after scoring 41 first half points. Arkansas put 51 in the second half and made 5 of 8 from 3 in the last half. But again, shot 20 more free throws. I mentioned the wins in certain areas. The offensive glass, second chance points continues to be a major headache for this team. Wasn't enough to me, if Thero doesn't go out with 6 minutes left hurt, Arkansas probably wins this game by 15. His box score plus minus was plus 19 in his 26 minutes. Conversely, the guy that had to help fill his time was Trevor Brazil. He had a box score minus 12 in his 11, 12 minutes that he played. So, I'm picking on somebody there. I just think that Arkansas cannot afford more attrition. And the headline is twofold here. Yeah, it was a big win. It keeps you in the hunt for an NCAA tournament bid. You're now 16-11 overall, 5-9 in the SEC. Your net's now 40th in the country. You picked up your 4th quad 1 win of the season. All that was good. But now, how long? We don't know details on Thero and how long he might be out. Is it just to get through the end of that game? And because I got a feeling if he could play, they would have played him, needing that win. I mean, it was marginal. He goes out, they're up 11, and immediately, with blink of an eye, it's down to 6 in less than a minute. So how long is he out? What's his availability? Because Arkansas, I can tell you one thing, down to a top 8 rotation, and it's really been mostly 6, with Adu and Trevor and Brazil being persona non grata. Although we ought to talk about Adu here in a minute. He actually gave Arkansas a spark. But you lose your leading scorer, rebounder, and steals guy on the season, your top field goal percentage guy, and you just look around what all that Thero brings to the table. I'm not sure where Arkansas can turn to next and how they get through these last 4 games if he's out at all, for even one game, let alone what's left.
Yeah, and I think, we'll give Adu his flowers in just a moment, but when you look at kind of that plus 19 from Adu Thero, and then again that, what'd you call it, minus 12, give or take, from Trevor and Brazil, like that's where that 7-8 points comes in, and that's why you saw at the end that the game being much closer than initially you thought it was, and Hog fans had to sweat it out like they did with also the baseball game last night. So not a very easy night for a lot of these wins, but you're happy to get them. But I think the good thing about this Missouri game is Big Z got back on track. He had 20 points. Nelly Davis had 18 points. Both of them really key in that win, especially after Z, again, like you already mentioned, laid a goose egg against Auburn earlier in the week. So they got back on track and led the Hogs in the win. And it's something that they need at this point in time with 4 games remaining and with a final push potential for the NCAA tournament. But yeah, I'm curious what you thought on Adu. I thought he gave the Hogs some really good minutes. Again, box score might not be overwhelming, but what he did was big enough in moments, creating turnovers and really, being a spark plug, like you said.
Yeah, he played 15 minutes, so he played fewer minutes than Big Z and had 1 more rebound. There were times that Missouri on those second chance opportunities are just driving right into him with their bigs, Mark Mitchell, a couple of their guards going right at him and getting to the basket. As good as he was on offense, not so much defensively and on the glass. And we know he's up and down in those areas. But Adu comes in, got a couple of paint buckets in the first half, ended up with 5 rebounds. A couple of those were offensive rebounds. That was big as Arkansas got crushed on the offensive glass. So at least he was given a little, trying to counter some of that. And he got to the free throw line for 4 attempts. He only made 2, but he was productive. He blocked a shot. He had an assist. And he was a box plus 4 in his 15 minutes. I think that's the key. He had a positive impact when he was on the floor. You mentioned, we talked Big Z and his 20 points. He's had some big games, right? He had a big game against Alabama. He had a big game prior to that one, I think in Arkansas's win at Texas. I'm trying to remember what he did against LSU, but he's had some big moments and now his third 20-plus point game. But Nelly Davis, with his 18 points, we saw him shoot it really well at Kentucky, at Texas. He's not shot well in Bud Walton Arena. And that finally came around. The numbers aren't going to shock you, but 5 of 11, that's efficient overall. 3 of 7 from 3, had half the team's makes, and helped bring that percentage up from 10% at halftime to 33.3% on a decent, the volume was under 20 of takes. I like that for this team. Attack that basket. That's your strength. Get to the free throw line. That can be a strength when you're making them. But Nellie Davis, 3 of 7 for 3 and 5 of 6 the line. And then we didn't mention DJ Wagner, 17 points. Not a great shooting night for him, but here's what I like. Most of his production came in the second half. In those big wins over Michigan and Kentucky, he had monster second halves. Not as monster, but still, most of his volume was in that second half in scoring. And he was 8 of 10 at the foul line. Z was 7 of 7. And those two, so you put that together, 15 of 17 at the foul line, and they made 9 of 10 collectively in the last 4 minutes. When Arkansas at that point was playing, Missouri was playing the clock, stopping it, sending Arkansas to the free throw line, down multiple possessions, and those guys are knocking down free throws. If you look down the stretch of the game, Arkansas only got 2 field goals, a Big Z tip in and a Trevor Brazil bucket. His first score for Arkansas in 3 games. He's done a lot of work to help to score for other teams, but he finally got one lob pass from Nelly. So all these little things matter. These little things matter when you only win by 7. And people say, well, a win is a win. What's the matter of the margin? You beat that team by 15, and it boosts you a little bit more because winning margin also matters in your net and some of these other things, especially when you're getting quad 1 wins at home. If you can gap that out a little bit, it helps you. It's a little bit better for your resume. Still, you'll take the 7-point win and you move on now. I mean, every game's winnable from here. Yeah. Really, I think, Evan, when I look at it, Arkansas has had 1 2-game winning streak in all of SEC play, now 14 games in. Back-to-back road wins over Kentucky and then Texas. So this is not a team that you look at and say, Arkansas is about to go on a run here. They haven't done that. They haven't been that team all year. I mean, non-conference, they won 6 straight games, including on the road at Miami, then Michigan. But that was basically a 2-game winning streak against high majors, and then the rest of it was just cream puff quad 4s at home. So I don't really factor that in. I look at this and go, Arkansas has not shown us against this level of competition they can string together more than 2 wins. But right now, I don't think you need more than 2 out of these last 4. And they're all winnable. So maybe this is the time to go ahead and go on a little bit of a run. Texas is a team you've already beaten. They're coming off that ugly double-digit loss at South Carolina, a team that's been competitive all league play but just couldn't find a win and finally gets one. Arkansas, that's a dangerous game Wednesday for more than one reason, I think, because Arkansas has not been as good at home. I would say the second half against Missouri was probably their best half at home in a long while. Because the first half, you're down 7, you gave up 48 points, including 8 of 19 from 3. So as good as Arkansas's defense has been for long stretches of games, this really wasn't a defensive game in the first half. Much better in the second half. Arkansas's got a little momentum. Let's see if they can build on it against the Longhorns midweek.
Yeah, like you said, 4 games left. It starts with Texas, and then you've got teams like South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. And look, Texas is on the bubble. Vanderbilt is on the bubble. Arkansas is on the bubble. South Carolina, probably not on the bubble. Let's face it there. No. But then you have a Mississippi State team who's had some really big wins, and they've had some really big losses. Again, it's all about getting hot at the right time in March Madness, right? You want your team to be trending in the right direction. If Arkansas can go 3-1 over the next 4 games, then they're trending on the right direction to get to Nashville, make some noise in the NCAA and the SEC tournament, and then eventually they would go on and probably get in and maybe slide past that first 4 and avoid a first-round matchup in Dayton against another power team to get into the tournament. But I'm curious, when you look at it, where do you have Arkansas in the NCAA tournament? What are the chances that this is possible and they can go on the run? What do you like, with 4 games left in terms of postseason?
Well, I think all 4 are winnable. I said that. Here's what I've been saying. I haven't changed my tune. Arkansas now needs at least 2 wins. Split these 2. And I think that would leave them on the good part of the bubble going into the SEC tournament. So good enough to be considered a tournament team, but then it's also depending upon what other teams do. Mm-hmm. So going into the SEC tournament, that's probably good enough. Yeah. You might not, but you might still need to do work in the SEC tournament for that to hold true. I think if Arkansas goes 3-1, they are a lock regardless of the SEC tournament. I've said that. Before the Missouri win, I said Arkansas needs 3 out of 5 to have that favorable spot going into the SEC tournament. And if they win 4 of the 5, they're a lock. So today it's win 2 out of 4, and you're probably in good shape going to the SEC tournament, but maybe not a lock. Win 3 out of the 4, I think it's a lock. Doesn't matter what happens in the SEC tournament. And I think if you win all 4 of these games, coupled with the win just against Missouri, that's a 5-game winning streak. And now you go into the SEC tournament, maybe looking at a potential to climb. Even not only are you off the bubble at that point, but maybe climb beyond an 8 or 9 seed, and maybe as good as a 7 seed, depending upon what you can cobble together in a couple of games, maybe in the SEC tournament. So that's kind of how I see this. I see Arkansas winning 2 more and staying on the bubble and sweating it out, but probably good enough to get in, but go 2-2 and then lose to, say, a South Carolina in the SEC tournament. That might make things dicey, but again, 1-3 or worse.
Yeah.
I think that's bad news for Arkansas. And I said all along, if Arkansas goes 1-3 to finish these last 4, they'd be 6-12. I said before the start of SEC play, but after all the teams had just worn out the other major conferences in non-conference play, I said I could envision an SEC team going 6-12 in the league and still making the NCAA tournament. I still believe that. However, Arkansas is not one of those. Arkansas did not do enough in the non-conference, aside from avoiding bad losses. They did salvage one quad 1 win, a really good one against Michigan. But I didn't feel like they'd done enough work there to make 6-12 in league play hold up. So if you finish out 1-3, that's where you'll land, 6-12. And I stand by that. I think Arkansas would be on the bad part of the bubble, needing to do a good, much work in the SEC tournament to get back on the good part of it. So, I've kind of gone through, the gambit there of where I see this, how it would land for Arkansas based on results. Predicting what Arkansas will do, I mentioned only 1 2-game winning streak. That was Kentucky on a Saturday that capped a 1-1 week because you lost to OU the week. But it was actually a 1-0 week because Arkansas had a midweek bye, but they'd lost their previous game. But Arkansas has, after starting 0-5 in league play, every week they've gone 1-1, except for that Kentucky win, I guess. Technically, that counts as a 1-0 week because you didn't have a midweek. So this Arkansas team, just based on its history since the 0-5 start, feels like if you're projecting them 1-1, 1-1, that's a 2-2 split. And again, you might still need to win another game in the SEC tournament to lock up staying on that good part of the bubble. But I think they'd go in on the good part of the bubble with just a 2-2 split.
There's always a chance. Kevin, anything else we missed before we wrap up?
Only thing I'll say is I would not look beyond this Texas team just because Arkansas really played very well in Austin. Tremont Mark laid an egg in that game. He's going to be motivated coming back into Bud Walton Arena where he had success, even though Arkansas was not good. He had a game winner against an A&M team that was an NCAA tournament team. Arkansas swept those Aggies last year. Go figure. Beat Duke on that court as well. But Tremont Mark, I think he missed that Duke game, didn't he? He didn't even play in that game. But I don't know why I'm going down that. I think keep an eye on him. Texas is a bit of an enigma like Arkansas. Beat Kentucky at home, goes on the road, lays an egg, and gives South Carolina its first league win. Both of these teams, there's reason they're both on the bubble. And Arkansas typically has not played as well at home as it has on the road. So, and both teams are desperate right now. So Arkansas really needs back-to-back wins here at home to kind of get over the schneid, have a successful run at home for once. They're 3-4 in SEC home games. So don't sleep on Texas. Every game is probably going to be close from here on out. Keep an eye on that one.
And the biggest hope is that the fans show up like they did against Missouri yesterday. That would be, again, another really huge impact. We see them show up in starts against some really big teams. You'd like to think because of the history between Arkansas and Texas that the fans will show up for their first SEC basketball edition at home of that rivalry. So it should be a really fun game. Kevin, that is going to do it for the Hog Hoops Report. For Kevin McPherson, I'm Evan Camico. More Pig Trail Show coming up after the break.